After refusing to take back their own failed Muslim asylum seekers, Iraqi officials are outraged to discover what a pair of officials decided that the Islamic nation also won't be receiving. Thanks to liberal immigration policies, Europe has opened the floodgates to millions of unvettable migrants, nearly all of whom are adult males from Islamic countries. Now that they are suffering skyrocketing crime perpetrated by the tiny minority, many of these nations' political atmospheres are shifting in a desperate bid to ebb their rapidly expanding migrant populace. However, gracious liberal Europeans are finding that the same Muslim nations that demanded they receive an unlimited number of asylum seekers are refusing to take back their own fake refugees. Unfortunately for these Islamic regimes, their rejection of their disreputable citizens comes at a steep price thanks to two politically incorrect politicians. Because Iraq has refused to accept its own deported nationals, Danish officials Peter Skaarup and Hækkerup have announced a proposal that will cut foreign aid to the Islamic regime, suggesting that if the Muslim country won't take care of its own citizens, it won't receive a dime of its expected $22 million from Denmark, according to Danish newspaper Berlingske. In a proposal supported by both the conservative Danish People's Party (DF) and the liberal Social Democrats, South Dakota, Denmark is showing that it is finally unwilling to play babysitter to Iraq's criminal migrants. Incredibly, the South Dakota holds the same sentiments as their political rivals, referring to the fact that the war on ISIS is over and that most of Iraq is safe for both migrants and refugees to return and rebuild their nation, Sputnik News confirms. The controversial proposal follows Denmark's move toward creating stronger deportation efforts, which began in November 2016. As such, the government suggests that Iraq's refusal undermines the legitimacy of the asylum system. The Danish government has cited the overwhelming cost of caring for asylum seekers, which averages around $220 per day, to simply house a refugee. Considering that most asylum seekers will live on the taxpayer benefits for the entirety of their lives, the bill delivers a devastating blow to Denmark's economy. In 2009, Iraq agreed to honor the stipulations of a repatriation agreement, concluding that the Islamic regime would take back migrants whose asylum applications have been rejected. However, the country broke the treaty just 2 years later, leaving Denmark with countless economic migrants both already within its borders and still arriving daily. In 2017, Denmark gave over $22 million in aid to internally displaced Iraqis in an effort to assist regions razed by the Islamic State. Of course, there are still liberals who believe that bending over backward for the Islamic regime is the right thing to do. Jensen believes that if Denmark continues to appease Iraq's government by sending it millions of dollars without holding it accountable for rejecting its failed asylum seekers, it will use the funds to rebuild ISIS-ravaged areas and welcome back its people. However, the country will never be able to rebuild unless its people return and contribute to their homeland. Additionally, the oppressive, terror-funding nation cannot be trusted to use such aid in a way that actually benefits its own people. Europe is flooding itself with a never-ending wave of migrants who not only despise their values, liberties, and tolerance but seek to establish the same oppressive laws that have plunged their homelands into medieval ruins. In fact, 69% of all arrivals are men, not the women and children we've been guilted into believing we must help. Furthermore, the vast majority of asylum seekers come from non-refugee Islamic nations, proving that Europe is receiving millions of economic and criminal migrants. If the West hopes to preserve its freedoms and values, it must take Denmark's approach by cracking down on its migrant issue and sending an unignorable message to the nation's producers.